and markets are now reacting to the ouster of Venezuela President Maduro over the weekend.
Jane King is live at the New York Stock Exchange with those stories and much more. Good morning, Jane.
Good morning. Yes, in fact, the market's kind of, shrugging this off. At least the stock market is. But interesting to see Polymarket. That is, of course, one of these new betting sites. And there was a suspicious bet ahead of Maduro's capture. Now, the market for whether or not Maduro would be out of power climbed shortly before 10 p.m. on Friday night Eastern time after hovering in the low single digits for weeks, according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, what appears to be a newly created account invested $30,000 Friday in Maduro's exit. After Maduro went into custody Saturday morning, that same investor netted more than $400,000. Now, Polymarket did not immediately respond to Axios' request for comment over the weekend.
Venezuela President Nicolás Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores will be in court today in New York City 2 days after the U.S. military captured them in a surprise attack. Mr. Maduro and his wife facing charges in the U.S. of narco-terrorism, conspiracy, and other drug charges, along with weapons offenses. President Trump says the U.S. will run Venezuela temporarily and will tap into its oil reserves. The country's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, is the acting leader and invited the U.S. government to collaborate. Now, according to the Express News, a small number of troops involved in that operation are now in San Antonio recovering from minor injuries. In fact, a flight tracker shows a plane from Puerto Rico flew into San Antonio Saturday, believing to have been carrying those soldiers. President Trump says the troops are in good shape.
Yes, we have calls into them. I don't want to speak. They're all in good shape.
We reached out to BAMC, Lackland, and the Pentagon for comment and are still waiting to hear back.
Officials in the Trump administration have been working to make the case that the attacks in Venezuela is the best interest of the United States.
Critics, though, say the opposite is true. Christine Frizzell joins us now from Washington to break it all down. Christine.
With Venezuela's leader Nicolás Maduro on U.S. soil, the future of his country is for now in the hands of the United States, with oil at the center of the strategy.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure.
The president's team now making clear it's not just about energy and financial gain for the United States, but as a means to weaken U.S. adversaries.
Why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Other supporters touting the operation as a national security win, given Venezuela's proximity to our country and his ties to unfriendly leaders.
Venezuela invited Cuba, they've invited Nicaragua, but they also invited China and Russia and Iran and Hezbollah into our hemisphere. They've got more oil than Saudi. That's going to drive down the price of Russian oil. And it's going to take money out of Putin's pocket to prosecute the war in Ukraine.
As far as China, which has for years ignored sanctions on Venezuelan oil and was its top customer, President Trump suggested they'd be allowed to buy it still. But there may be conditions. Several, though, speaking out against the operation.
We don't consider Venezuela our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is right here in the 50 United States, not in the Southern Hemisphere.
Other critics argue President Trump is simply trying to enrich his friends with ties to Wall Street and big oil.
Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. There is no terrorist group like Al-Qaeda operating there that has plans to attack the United States.
China, Russia, and Iran have all been pretty tight-lipped about any sort of response to U.S. actions in Venezuela, but all three have condemned the operation and referred to it as an act of armed aggression against a sovereign country. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Meanwhile, demonstrations happened across the country immediately after Maduro's takedown. Many people protested President Trump's recent action in Venezuela. In Austin, a large group of people gathered outside City Hall for what was called the No War on Venezuela protest. Some of the signs said no blood for oil and U.S. out of the Caribbean. In that overnight operation, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro was brought to the States to face narco-terrorism charges. The Party for Socialism and Liberation says it categorically rejects the U.S. military's action.
We know that this, at the end of the day, is a power grab and an oil grab, and we know that this government is only trying to do this to line their pockets.
Venezuelans in the United States are divided over Maduro's recent capture. Over in El Paso, a man and his family were celebrating. They even closed their business early. He says he left Venezuela 10 years ago after escaping from Maduro's dictatorship.
A Venezuelan will never feel happy about someone else's misfortune, but the feeling of happiness we feel today is incredible. Because of our country is somehow breathing the air of freedom today.
And in Venezuela, Maduro's supporters are not holding back their feelings. Protesters took to the streets of downtown Caracas, demanding for him to be released. Some protesters even burning an American flag.
Pope Leo XIV says that Venezuela should be left as an independent nation. Yesterday, he called for respect of human and civil rights. The Pope has been at odds with President Trump on his actions of immigration and foreign policy. In fact, last month, he urged the president to not use military force to remove President Maduro from office.